Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I have listened with a lot of interest to those who have preceded me, and I find that apart from listening to the members of government applaud the Prime Minister at every single opportunity, apart from self and auto-congratulating themselves, the ministers have, it reminds me of the intervention of the President of the Republic of France, as well as the intervention of the Prime Minister of France on this particular issue of COVID-19. The humility shown by the President of France when he admits that there were lacunas in the processes put in place by his government. The humility shown by the Prime Minister in France is in stark contrast with the arrogance shown by this government. It's clear that when you hear the government of France talk, they have humility in their approach, they admit where there is wrong, but this government, when you listen to them, Mr. Speaker, sir, it is clear for me that they have never, ever admitted that they could humanly have made some mistakes. It is impossible to believe that any human being could be so perfect as those ladies and gentlemen on the other side. They seem to have forgotten altogether.
Honourable members.
Yes, honourable ladies and gentlemen, if you feel better. But then again, there is no honour in what they have done. None whatsoever. Because they have totally forgotten the cry of the people outside. As I speak to you today, the people out there do not come and say, well, let us congratulate this government. They are worried. Worried about who will help them save their jobs. They are worried about who will help save the future of their children. Will they see Mauritius as it used to be? Will we start seeing politics as it should be practiced? Or are we going to listen to empty comments coming from ministers who did not even hesitate to go and participate, to share proceeds, food to the poor, and put their face on Facebook? This is what we have on the other side. Ministers who went even to share dates given from Saudi Arabia for Ramadan, and he went and put his photograph on Facebook. Oh well, I'll say it to you, and I ask you to look at him.
But don't show him.
All right, fair enough. So look at him. I'm sure you know whom I mean. We all saw him on Facebook. But then again, Mr. Speaker, sir, outside there today, people are wondering, who will help them? Is it not an auto-congratulating government? When I see what the ILO says about issues pertaining to COVID-19 and how to deal with it, I read a document which is called a policy brief on COVID-19. It's entitled Pillar 3. It talks about protecting workers in the workplace. First and foremost, to start out, protect workers, health and social workers, cleaners, agricultural workers, those in the front line, those who provide essential services. Let us implement adequate health and safety measures in those sectors, as well as promoting supportive working environments, key to help workers face this challenging time. Where is the amendment to the Occupational Safety and Health Act here? Where is the chapter pertaining to the health and safety of worker here in this COVID legislation? Les travailleurs de ce pays ont peur parce qu'ils se disent qu'il n'y a plus d'avenir. Ils se disent comment est-ce qu'on va aller retourner travailler? Est-ce qu'on ne va pas retourner chez nous infectés? Parce que c'est ce gouvernement qui a mal géré ce problème. C'est ce gouvernement. Mais ils ne vont pas le voir. But then again, it's not my duty to make them see it. As long as they don't see it, I'm even happier. Then again, when you talk about the pillars, number 3, the ILO also recommends recognizing how teleworking from home is not easy and also a challenge. Dealing with isolation, managing online teams, maintaining productivity while working remotely, balancing paid work and care work with schools closed can be very challenging. Instead of this, what this government does, simply defended with such style by the Honourable Minister Le Jonga, as though 48 hours is sufficient. 48 hours notice is sufficient. Do the home at work. You may have children there. Your employer can call you at 11 o'clock at night. Does not matter, because it is sufficient according to the Honourable Minister. This is a sector that is not even regulated at all. And the Minister says that it is proper in order to proceed in that manner. I read Pillar 4 of the International Labour Organization. It talks about how to deal with those challenges in a moment of COVID-19. Social dialogue is of utmost importance. And the International Labour Organization says that lessons from previous global crises have shown that governments alone cannot address the challenges stemming from strong shocks. This government has chosen to deal with it alone. I read from the press today that it is today at 17:30 hours that there was supposed to be a meeting with the trade unionist, the Prime Minister and the Minister of Labour. Today, when the bill has already been presented. This is not called consultations. This is called putting everyone before a fait accompli. The Honourable Prime Minister, sir, chose not to involve anyone in the preparation of his bill, save and except those who are close to him. I have also been reported that even the Minister of Labour, I wonder whether he has his stamp of approval on this piece of legislation damaging the rights of the workers. I wonder. But then again, he will not come and tell us that he hasn't. What I'm told, and then I would like him to tell me that it's not true, that the hand that was involved in the preparation of this chapter pertaining to employment laws was the Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Trade unionists tell me that the whole issue about shift work, the whole issue about overtime, the whole issue that is now on the paper, the whole issue about leaves, annual leaves being taken away from the workers. This is not the first time that it is on the agenda. The person who championed removing annual leaves was Honourable DPM Kolenda Belou. The person who championed it in the committee to prepare the previous Workers' Rights Act before it came to Parliament was Honourable Kolenda Belou. He chaired it. He was the one who was championing the cause of shutting down leaves. He was the one who was championing the cause that over time it should not happen again. Can you imagine, sir? Can you imagine that when you look at the legislation today, shouldn't there be a balance? A balance between the responsibility of the corporate sector as well as the responsibility of government, as well as the other responsibility of the worker. But when I look at this piece of legislation, there is seulement la classe des travailleurs qui ici sont là pour payer pour la casse. Et la casse, ce n'est pas seulement parce qu'il y a eu le Covid-19. C'est vraiment nous prendre pour des bêtes. Quand je regarde le rapport de Pricewaterhouse, quand je regarde le rapport des consultants qui ont été publiés que hier sur ce qui est proposé par ce gouvernement, les consultants, les experts comptables, les experts analystes disent que la situation économique, la situation financière, l'endettement de ce pays était déjà catastrophique avant l'avènement du Covid-19. Alors pour moi, Monsieur le Président, avec Covid-19, avec ce que le ministre des Finances est en train de faire, avec la complicité de ses collègues ministres et avec à la tête l'honorable Premier ministre, c'est d'avoir la carte blanche de prendre tout ce qu'il veut de la Banque de Maurice. Tout ce qu'il veut. Mais, tenez-vous bien, il ne nous dit pas comment il va le dépenser. Il ne nous dit pas à qui il va le donner. Il ne nous dit pas jusqu'à maintenant, Monsieur le Président, comment se fait-il qu'au moment où il fallait aider les pauvres, les démunis, ceux qui souffraient, ceux qui n'ont pas à manger chez eux, ce ministre de Finances, l'honorable membre, nous a pas dit jusqu'à maintenant comment se fait-il qu'il a donné de l'argent des contribuables, l'argent du peuple, pas qui appartient à lui, pas à ce gouvernement, l'argent des contribuables. Il a donné cet argent-là à des sociétés qui se sont déclarées des dividendes par millions et des centaines de millions. Il a donné cet argent-là sans réfléchir à des compagnies qui sont sur la liste des plus grandes sociétés de Maurice. Il a donné cet argent-là à des compagnies qui font des profits. Il a donné cet argent-là à des banques. Il a donné cet argent-là à des offshore management companies. Il a donné cet argent-là à des assurances. Il a donné cet argent-là à des supermarchés qui travaillent pendant le confinement. Mais il n'a rien donné, ou presque, à ceux qui sont dans le secteur informel. C'est cela le cœur que ce gouvernement nous démontre. Monsieur le Président, c'est ce même gouvernement qui, à un certain moment, critiquait avec véhémence le Parti travailliste pour une loi Employment Rights Act de 2008. Je parle hier soir à certains syndicalistes qui étaient très critiques en 2008 quand l'honorable Benoît avait apporté la loi pour prévenir la crise économique. À ce moment-là, les secteurs qui ne pouvaient pas aller en grève, c'était la police et les pompiers. Mais tous les autres secteurs dont fait référence Monsieur le Premier ministre, tous les autres secteurs, ça veut dire civil aviation, airports, health, hospital, tous, all those sectors could go for a strike. So the government they used to criticize at no time curtailed the right to strike of people in the port, of workers in the hospitals, of workers in the health service, of workers in the civil aviation service, of workers in the airport. But this government that takes the moral high ground and champions of the workers' cause slaps the workers with a rose. And what is that rose? That is a poisonous rose is. What is it? They have removed the right to strike. What does the ILO say? I've been checking. What does the ILO say about that? When I look at this government, give a blanket provision to prohibit strike in the port, the Labour government did not do that. I look at a document entitled ILO Principles Concerning the Right to Strike, and that document says, at page 20, it is written by Bernard Guernigon, Alberto Odero, and Horacio Guido, which is a research document on the principles of striking for the ILO. It says here that ports for loading and unloading is not an essential service. It says here that transport is not an essential service. It also goes on to explain that if the right to strike is subject to restrictions or prohibition, workers who are thus deprived of an essential means of defending their socio-economic and occupational interests should be afforded compensatory guarantees. What are the compensatory guarantees here? Apart from fleecing the workers by taking away their overtime, fleecing the workers by reducing overtime, taking away their leaves, taking away compensation for shift. Where is the compensation that the workers deserve and that the ILO says they must get? The committee of experts also considers prohibition of recourse to strike can be justified in a case of acute national crisis, and then only for a limited period and to the extent necessary to meet the requirements of the situation. When you look at the ILO's report, it says only for a limited point in time. Where's the limit here? When you look at the documents here, what is proposed by this government, there is no time limit. Is there any sunset clause? No. Is there any point in time where, for instance, even for the Bank of Mauritius, is there a sunset clause? No. Is there any limit in time? No. It gives the power, on the contrary, to the Honourable Minister to come and make regulations to extend over and above the COVID period and to go as long as he wishes to protect the friends of the Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. He can. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister is the champion of the private sector. And in order to satisfy him, he can very well change the regulations. And then the worker will keep on suffering. Mauritius is the only country, when I compare to Singapore, when I compare to the United Kingdom, when I compare to France, when I compare to Malaysia, when I compare to such countries, South Africa, in matters of redundancy, because of COVID-19, there has been no facilitating of redundancy in those countries. The only country that I've studied in all I've mentioned today where they have facilitating redundancy, will facilite la fin d'un contrat de travail avec autant d'aise, c'est à l'île Maurice. And this government tells you, we have at heart the rights of the workers. Mr. Speaker, sir, transfer of the undertaking. You know, everyone is wondering what exactly is going on. When you see them amending that clause that talks about the third schedule, why is it that you find that in there is air transport? Why do you find in there airport? Do you know at the moment the government is légifère? When at the moment there are two dossiers pending before the Commission for Conciliation and Mediation, one concerning the Cargo Handling Corporation and one concerning airports of Mauritius. Now the government comes into the play when they are not invited and changes the rules while the game has already started and forces the Commission for Conciliation and Mediation not to listen to them, but to send it immediately to the tribunal. This is democracy for government. This is the interest of the worker for government. But why is it, Mr. Speaker, sir? Why is it, Mr. Speaker, sir, that we until today, and I think that is a very important element that the Honourable Minister of Finance has to answer. What will he do with all this money that he is picking and he has not even told us what he will do with it? Why is it that in the United Kingdom you have a Chancellor of the Exchequer that not only tells you what he's going to give, how he's going to give it, what are the conditions? Here we have an Honourable Minister of Finance that gave away money, and now because of his mistake, he has to be able to put in a levy in order to cover la gaffe. Why is it that he could not go for targeting? Why is it that he's only given 2,550 rupees to those in the informal sector? Why, when is he going to ensure that those for the month of April are going to receive their money, which they haven't? Over 60,000 people are still waiting for money, which he has promised. And at the time of giving out this money, and I'd like to conclude on that. At the time of giving out this money, did the Honourable Minister of Finance or the Prime Minister say that this was going to have to be reimbursed? At the time of giving the money, he pushed his chest forward, the Honourable Minister of Finance, saying, I have been generous with 5 billion. And he wanted people to even pat him on the back and say that he had done a champion of a job. But then again, only when the opposition showed that he had been over generous with rich companies with money that did not belong to him, then he has to backtrack and try to recoup the money. So therefore, if he is to recoup the 6 billion or so that he's given out, at least 75%, let us say only 1 billion he would have given out. What then has the government done for the workers? 1 billion? But what is he going to do for the big corporates? Let him not compare what happened with the Labour Party at the time of the economic crisis. Because at least there was transparency. Here there is none. There is no accountability. In this particular instance, there is no transparency, no accountability. As Honourable Jiwal rightly put it, the Bank of Mauritius is not even accountable to Parliament. And when you say that you've given money to corporates for the wage assistance scheme, and when you say you're taking billions and billions and you're going to give it to the big employers, what we ask is fairness vis-à-vis the travailleurs de ce pays. What we ask is fairness. What you've done, as certain trade unionists say, is put to shame the Labour Party. You tried to criticize the Labour Party about the Employment Rights Act, but you've outdone everyone. You've outdone yourself. It's amazing how you could show yourself having no heart for the workers. And now, when you look at the Facebook and the social media, when people are so angry, when people are being forced to stay in, not based on any scientific research, because one last question I'd like to ask the Prime Minister, and I'd say conclude on that. Maybe the Honourable Prime Minister or the Minister of Health, who was so arrogant by trying to give lessons to Honourable Boulel about how he should wear a mask when he didn't even have one when he went to a quarantine center. What is the R0 of Mauritius? What is the R0 of Mauritius? In France, they base themselves on the equation and the scientific calculation R0 to know what is the reproductivity figure, rate of the virus, COVID-19, or any virus for that matter. Here, we don't even have the figure. They don't even mention it. When just earlier on, he had pre-recorded a program for the embassy that was playing supposedly live while he was sitting here. What is the R0 for Mauritius? Is this government deciding to keep people in based on scientific fact? If it is the case, what is the scientific figure? Why is it that France can give the figure? Why is it that Germany can give the figure? Why is it England can give the figure? Why is it you can't give the figure? Because you don't have the figure. Because if you had the figure, you would know that it was 0.1. At worst, 0.5. So if that is the case, and you hear a government that is smiling away and laughing at themselves, they are keeping the truth away from the people. They don't want the people to know. Because let me tell you something, sir. With this piece of legislation, the government alone cannot redress the country. With this piece of legislation, the opposition alone cannot counter la domination de ce gouvernement. If there was no curfew, the people would have been to the street. If there was no curfew, the people would have revolted. If there was no curfew, the Prime Minister would not be comfortably seated here today and trying to meet the trade unionists after a fait accompli. He is keeping this country hostage. And then he says that he's treated the 300 patients. The Minister of Health says, and Dr. Jumai says, they have treated the patients. What treatment is there for COVID? There is none. They keep on telling the falsities. And that is the reason. They are taking advantage of COVID-19 in order to give freebies to their friends. And God knows who are those, par exemple, celui qui veut set up the industry to produce medicines. Maybe it's a friend of theirs. But we will not know because they will not tell you the truth. Thank you very much. You will vote it, this bill. But out there, you will be voted out. Thank you.